Hey, perfect. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another live stream here. Uh, this is basically going to be kind of a fireside chat, really giving Stani and the CEO of Aave here an opportunity to really increase awareness about some of the cool things they're doing, about the Chainlink integration, and where you can kind of find out more resources and information if you'd like to kind of take a deeper dive into sort of what both teams are doing. So first off, I just want to thank both the Aave, Chainlink, and blockchain community for joining us today. In addition, I want to thank Isa, who always does a fantastic job of helping us kind of arrange all this stuff behind the scenes. So special shout out to her. The main goal of the Q&A really is just to allow the community to learn more about the integration, learn more about Aave, learn more about Chainlink, and really exploring kind of deeper into what makes this collaboration so useful. So this is going to be for about 30 minutes, going to be sort of a fireside chat structure. Well, basically I'll be asking kind of Stani some questions that we've kind of gathered from both the community and some basic ones, and then really allow him to sort of explore on kind of what Aave is building and some of the cool stuff you can likely expect to see in down the road. We'll also be adding any sort of links to the descriptions to the YouTube video once completed. So again, if you want to join the Aave community, they have a thriving one on Discord. If you want to kind of send something to their Twitter account, we'll be supplying really all that information. So if you want to learn more details, you can follow any of those links to learn more about each one of these projects. So first off, I'd like to welcome again Stani Kulechov, the CEO of Aave. If you wouldn't mind, Stani, just kind of maybe sharing a little bit about yourself, maybe a little background, and just a little brief intro into what Aave's kind of created and is continuing to create.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rory. And it's pretty amazing to be here, and especially big fan of your community, and being like a quite long supporter of Chainlink and the project. So I think like it's actually touches a bit base what you guys are doing, how we kind of got started ourselves. So I think the very rough idea like about Aave started a few years ago. I think it was 2016. We wanted to create basically decentralized financial transactions, not just typical Alice sends funds to Bob and basically that kind of things, but actual like financial instruments and trying to make it as trustless as possible. So basically we did a first iteration called, smart contract iteration called ETH-Lend, which was the first lending protocol on Ethereum for a few years ago. And this was basically the time before the kind of like pool model liquidity that Aave has and Uniswap and whatnot, and before ages that we had actually stable coins on the Ethereum blockchain. So the only thing in terms of stable coins was Tether USDT, which was on Omni blockchain. So kind of like the challenges that we had is that like there was low liquidity and kind of like getting the prices of those different kinds of assets was very difficult because there wasn't any kind of decent Oracle system that you can put a place on and actually have decentralized node structure. So that kind of like was one of the kind of like a key challenges in our project in the very beginning. So what we wanted to do back then is basically a proof of concept. So we did that, and we noticed that there is a pretty interesting kind of like product market fit there, because we had, I think, roughly 3.5 million locked value in our smart contracts before the kind of like stablecoin era. And we noticed that there was like in DeFi, that was like period before DeFi was called at all like DeFi, and it was like transforming into more liquid marketplace and a marketplace or like an ecosystem where actually you have stability via stable coins, and everything boils down to the Oracle system. So basically like where Chainlink's mission is to feed the data. Like our bread and butter is more or less the collateral management in different forms and shapes and features on top of that. So it's kind of like the Oracle system and Chainlink is pretty much like which feeds our current like baseline, which is the collateral management as a product. So that was how we got started, and roughly I think a year ago we started to kind of like improve the model that we had. I mean, we gained a lot of experience in smart contract development, a lot of financial experiments and whatnot. And basically we started to create more pooled model and try to basically create a product and assets into a one single protocol, and which you can lend out, deposit, earn, and borrow against collateral, and also flash borrow. So kind of like trying to put everything in a package. But like, I think what's more important here is that actually like not the features itself, but the actual risk involved, and kind of like having a risk profile in our protocol with different assets. And that's where like the integration of Chainlink comes to play to actually get those price feeds and ensuring that we have the right data. Because I mean, you're good as your data is accurate, and that's very important for us. And I think like that's kind of like what started the whole discussion with you guys like for a longer period, and how we make this integration to happen, and basically what's the value proposition for us. And we are, I think that like the coolest thing about here is that like we have one field that we are like focusing, and we don't need to take care of oracles, and we understand the system works. And when others are basically joining the same kind of like mindset and decentralization, we can lower the costs of oracles and have more secure networks of oracles as well. So that's like how we got here. We launched our protocol January, which is I think 3 months from now, roughly. We have 30 million locked value in the smart contracts. The market size, including the borrowing as well, it's roughly under 40 million. So we had like very exponential growth in DeFi, and that's something that we're very happy about it. And also we have interesting flash loan volume. I think there's like 20 to 30 flash loans per day currently, with different sizes and different use cases in the DeFi field. So that's like what where we are coming from as a project, and basically where we are now in terms of after the launch.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much for that very detailed explanation. I know with our community, some of them were familiar with ETHLend, kind of sort of the previous iteration of this, but I was always personally impressed by the fact that you guys have actually, kind of were doing DeFi things before, there was even the term DeFi, and you were already experienced in kind of the fields of peer-to-peer lending, saw new opportunities as the technology continued to progress, and then obviously have created something that is, maybe you're not surprised by the growth, or maybe you're not surprised by the success. But I know, for myself, seeing just how quickly people were interested in what your team has built has been pretty amazing to watch. And I'm really excited by what the future of that's going to look like as well.
Yeah, and I think like one of the things, like we got like a lot of kind of support from your community. I think like a lot of Chainlink community members are actually actively participating in our markets. Obviously, we have Link that can be used as a collateral, and they're basically like using the protocol, and that's like nice to see. And I think like those are very like DeFi centric users. So kind of like I really think it has been like very good pathway, and I kind of see like this DeFi user starting to emerge. Like many times we are saying that we need more users into DeFi, and kind of like, but we forget that we also need to kind of like grow those DeFi users as well. So I mean, if you are a user that basically lends or borrows on your trades and provides liquidity somewhere, I mean, you could do all of these things, or 3 out of 5, and like you could actually grow your financial self. And I think that's also kind of like things that we need to understand and focus, and not just thinking, okay, we only focus now just getting more users. I think more users will come when they see that people are growing in DeFi, and then other people want to come and grow. So that's like very nice to see like how users like between communities are interacting and participating. That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. And I think that's really the ultimate goal with everything, is that it's this big group of individual communities which essentially create this one overall community, which really pushes the space forward. I know in some of my conversations with Sergey, with the Chainlink project, half 50% is community, the other 50% is technology, and we really try to live by that, as saying without the community, it doesn't matter what you build because nobody will know about it. At the same
Yeah,
time, if the technology's not there, it doesn't matter how big your community is.
exactly, and that's the thing. Like you kind of need both. But the interesting part is like if you fail on the technology, and I don't mean like fail as basically that you have a broken system in terms of like you're incurring risk. But I think like let's say if you don't find product market fit, like you're easier like accepted to pivot and try different kinds of things. And like that's a kind of like a very interesting ecosystem compared to, for example, if you are funded by VCs or some other kind of like formation. So I think like besides that, I think like communities understand like what's important for the project, and they're very forgiving to try new things and pivot. So that's was one of the important things about Aave, is that we basically understood that okay, that the DeFi industry is moving into kind of like a more liquidity pooled model, as the liquidity is the Web3 kind of like network effect. So we kind of understood that and basically communicated to our community and said that okay, now like we just want to expand what we have, and we have the tools and resources and the partners to basically do this. And people pretty much understood and kind of like supported. And I think you gain more value when you do this kind of like decisions and kind of like do brave decisions, but also kind of like you're not afraid to actually do these things, and like your community can actually work as a feedback element and support you to make those kind of like moves. So that's like very, very nice effect.
Awesome, perfect. Well, thank you again for sharing kind of your thoughts there. When it comes to the integration with Chainlink, I know I think a lot of people don't really understand kind of the ongoing nature of sort of these things. So could you maybe just talk a little bit about, obviously there's step one where you first start talking, but I know from my perspective, because I can see it, that it's an ongoing process. Can you just maybe talk a little bit about sort of what that process kind of looks like?
Yeah, definitely. So in overall, if you think about the price feeds that we have now in Aave, so basically the whole integration, like we have the integration, we have the price feeds, but what's important is to maintain the price feeds. And that's interesting because we have so many different kinds of layers. We have the market risk layer, where actually the asset prices changes, because like the price data that actually Chainlink provides is very critical. I mean, it's asset price of mainly now like the cryptocurrency assets and dollar prex and so forth. But those are basically financial assets. So the ability to provide these assets with the high availability is very like crucial. So even if you integrate first, like it's a process where you have to follow those assets all the time, and how the node network works, and what prices you're submitting. So for example, we had the kind of like a Black Thursday event in terms of kind of like all these like cryptocurrency assets losing their value 40-50%. And what happened is that there was like a chain reaction where the network got so much congested, and that kind of acts like a stress test and kind of like figures out your resilience. So those kind of events is where we need to prepare, and where Chainlink also needs to prepare, and where we actually prepared in this kind of moments and actually overcame those issues that we saw, that actually this is the current market price where gas is paid on Ethereum network, and something that might be realistic will be as a high gas will be this higher. And eventually the only solution for us to basically make the network resilient, I mean the protocol resilient, was to basically submit high gas prices. And one of the interesting things is that we pretty quickly were able to have a meeting with Chainlink and basically figure out that okay, now we just need to submit very, very costly transactions, but we need to do it to keep the protocol safe. And we basically did that, and because of the result, we suffered least injuries from the Black Thursday, which was pretty cool because I mean it was a stress test for the whole DeFi space. But I think for us it was even more important because we launched a couple of months before that. So I think that was like interesting part, and also like the other part about the ongoing process is that like we have different kinds of markets, different kinds of assets. So we are looking always adding new assets, and I will probably share a bit about like the updates that we have in asset wise, but also it's kind of like thinking how and what kind of price feed should look like in the future. So price feeds are not just basically taking some piece of data and from one source and broadcasting it into smart contracts. It's actually not that. It's actually thinking about how the data should look. So we can't just take data from, let's say, CoinMarketCap. We need to think about like how we make this data accurate for the end user, and that they don't need to trust too much that the data is correct, because we want to get rid of the trust. And that's kind of like the thing where the ongoing process is even more important. Like, how do we innovate in terms of price feeds? And it always requires not just Chainlink itself, but also participants like us to understand like what's our product, and ask and understand with you together like how we can make better price feeds in the future.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. I think it's always interesting when people can see that it's not you have one conversation and then it's kind of done, but it's all these different protocols. As Aave continues to grow, there's always got to be additional steps that each team needs to take to make sure that it's secure and stable, and excited that we get to continue that relationship. Perfect. Kind of moving on to sort of a bigger kind of overall picture before we get into some of the cool things that Aave is doing. What are some kind of trends, or what are you excited about kind of maybe DeFi in the next 6 months to a year? What are some things you're really looking for to really kind of signal that things are headed in the right direction?
Well, I think like many people are always betting like new users and like I said, that basically institutional users, like you hear this all kind of like it's not like a story, it's more like a meme that like institutions will come and but I honestly I think what's the coolest part, what's happening like the next months, is the DeFi user growing. So like there will be like super users, like there will be like users who are doing like multiple things on Ethereum, and that's like the coolest part, and that will not exist without like cool people building things. So let's say like as we have like, for example, the Aave protocol, there is someone building something on top, for example, stablecoin swaps, for example, the Curve Finance, I earn, and that kind of things, or just basically token to token swaps, like the 1inch exchange and so forth. And there's like super many things that you can actually do on DeFi. And once we get like more and more this kind of like super users, it kind of like pulls like a gravity, like people together, like, okay, like I'm trying to do these things, and there's different levels and strategies. And I think that's like the kind of like additional adoption that we will see in the future. And of course, like cool people building nice things, and that's like pretty awesome. And it's like, it's not like if you build something on DeFi, you will benefit from it. I mean, people are building things which are cool and probably not like financially successful because of obvious reasons, that there's too many costs, smart contract audits and whatnot. But end of the day, like people are putting a lot of effort, and they make the space, and without them, we will not be here. There will not be super users. So I think like those two elements, that there's a lot of building going on, and there's a lot of usage going on for this particular user group. I think that's like we will see more like layers in the next 6-12 months.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. I'm amazed by, when you watch the DeFi Telegram chat or kind of any of the cool conversations there, that it seems like multiple times a day, people are talking about something new that they've built. But the really intriguing part is it's usually using some existing protocol where they've thought about some new way of kind of stacking all of these things together and making some new product that's useful to people.
Exactly. Like I really love the fact like there's like a lot of discussions and places to participate, and that's the very interesting part. Like you can actually talk about this and be in straight contact with people from different kinds of projects. But the thing, of course, is that like time is getting more and more limited, and and there's too many cool things to try out. But I think in one way it's like being in a candy store. You know, you have so many interesting stuff and strategies, and I think I wanted to like being able to swap my collateral on the DeFi, for example. If I have MakerDAO Vault and I have BAT and I want to swap my collateral to ETH without returning my DAI, and I basically brainstormed about this with Mariano Conti from Maker and asked in Twitter, like, can someone build this thing? And some guy just built the thing and said that I just wanted to do that, and he used basically flash loans to make the swap so that the end user does not need to return the asset. So that was pretty cool thing. And what's even cooler is that end of the day, that person participated in ETH London, a hackathon where we were as well, and we ended up hiring him, and now he's building cool things for Aave. So that's like so interesting, like how the whole space works and how many like cool things there are. And still there is so many things to build, and I think we'll see a lot of interesting stuff. And of course you need always like the price feeds and everything. So I think like there's a lot of supportive things here.
Absolutely. I think that's truly when open source, I think, really shows its kind of strength, is that this kind of permissionless system where someone's built a tool or someone's built a protocol, and then someone else can come, sees it in a completely new use case. Someone puts out a tweet on Twitter, and next thing you know, you have someone that's actually working for a company in the space because they took the initiative to build something. So that's always very interesting to see how all that works and how quickly things can go from an idea to something that's usable in sometimes a matter of days.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. So let's talk a little bit as we transition. Let's talk a little bit about kind of Aave and sort of what you guys have built recently. I know I've seen some kind of recent announcements about some things that you've kind of worked on that are now in place. So maybe kind of the first question is, can you talk about what you've sort of built recently that people can sort of play with now, and then maybe what 6 months to a year or whatever you can share with your roadmap, kind of some things that you're looking to add in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Like in terms of like asset prices and so forth, like we recently added BUSD, which is the Binance USD and so forth. Kind of wanted to expose an arbitrage opportunity. So there's like centralized exchanges might offer like higher arbitrage yields temporarily. So let's say like like big yields or yield disparities doesn't exist for a long period. So we wanted to make this opportunity possible so that people can arbitrage, so they can borrow against their collateral and take care of the arbitrage opportunity. In terms of other stuff, I would say like one cool thing that we are now building is the possibility to liquidate loans from the user interface. So basically what we are releasing is an interface where you can go and just liquidate by hand loans by yourself if you don't have any kind of bot. So normally like all this kind of like liquidation activity and which is very important when the market goes pretty down and all the bots get stuck if they can't like send expensive enough transactions into the network. So what is cool about it is it's actually a measure to secure the network itself, and secondly to kind of decentralize a bit that not just the profit making, but the kind of like securing the network. So that's something we're going to release pretty soon. We have done a lot of improvements in the user experience. So we have constant feedback loop back and forth with our users, with our partners, and adding new interesting stuff. There's a lot of like secret stuff that we are working upon and that we're going to launch within a few months. But kind of like more public stuff is that we're working now on the kind of governance and the Aavenomics. So we're working on the ability to vote with our token and then participate in the governance of the Aave protocol. And there will be a governance paper in a few weeks from now. So that's like what our main focus now is as a team. And besides that is improving basically the current product. So making it more secure, making it more stable, and focusing on integrations mostly. For example, you can now access Aave through my Ether wallet, which is pretty cool as well.
All right, very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that, and looking forward to the time when some of those secrets are revealed. That being said, if people want to follow the progress of what you guys are doing, what's the best channel for them to typically do that?
Yeah, I think our Telegram is pretty cool. So basically, Aave and of course like aave.com/discord. That's a pretty cool place to actually, if you need, especially if you need like development support, and if you want to develop some stuff, I recommend to go to developers.aave.com, and of course follow us in Twitter. And yeah, I mean, we're pretty active in different kinds of like DeFi groups and so forth, and trying to be active as possible, but we also need to work at the same time. So but still, I mean, like as a project, as a team, we're very reachable, and kind of like we're very like eager to receive any feedback, and especially if there's anything in terms of like how we can improve the stuff that we're doing with Chainlink, like future improvements on price feeds, or the way we manage prices, or in the app or the protocol. Like, we're happy to hear about that and improve things. Like that's even more important to us than anything else.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much. First off, I just want to say I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. As you mentioned, you guys are building all the time and building a lot of cool stuff. So I know your time is valuable. So thank you for spending it kind of with the Chainlink community here today. Is there anything else you'd like to add kind of before we wrap everything up?
No, nothing special. I mean, I really admire what you guys are doing, Rory, and also want to remind that I'm also a link holder. So and I think there's going to be a very interesting period in terms of asset pricing and oracles. So I'm very interested to see how things are going to evolve from here.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, everybody. That kind of wraps up our video Q&A for today. Again, I want to give special thanks to Stani and Isa for kind of setting all this up and devoting their time to this. We're looking to do more of these in the future. So again, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more great content. Thank you again, Stani. Best of luck with you and your project, and we look forward to kind of doing more together in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.